A retired Special Forces soldier was stopped on the street by two police officers. It was only because the officers didn't like the way he looked. The man quickly pulled out his ID to prove his identity, but the officers didn't even bother to look at it. Instead, they began searching through his backpack, clearly looking for trouble. To avoid any further issues, the man had no choice but to comply with their search. After rummaging through it for a while, they still couldn't find anything wrong. The man lifted his shirt to reveal a combat knife strapped to his waist. The sight of this immediately made the two officers draw their weapons and warn him not to move. Even though the man explained that he had a knife permit, the officers ignored him. They confiscated the knife and accused him of carrying it illegally, planning to take him to the police station. The man didn't want to escalate the situation, so he turned to comply. But just then, one of the officers swung a baton at him from behind. The man said nothing, merely glaring at the officer with cold eyes. Upon arriving at the police station, the officers immediately took all of his belongings and locked him in a cell. The police chief, hearing that a tough criminal had arrived, demanded to see him. The chief quickly examined the man's ID and discovered that his name was Victor, a major in the Special Forces. Not wanting to cause any more trouble, the chief immediately ordered his subordinates to return Victor's belongings. He personally invited Victor into his office to apologize and make amends. Victor glanced around the room, filled with luxury items, and quickly realized that the chief was no better than his subordinates. The chief noticed Victor's reaction and threatened him, telling him to pack up and leave immediately, or face the consequences. Victor didn't bother to respond and left the office without a second glance. As he stepped outside, a sweet-looking girl walked toward him. She was Marcia, a waitress from the town's restaurant, and Victor had met her once before. This time, she had come to the police station to pay the so-called protection fee, just as she placed the money on the table and prepared to leave. The chief began eyeing her with inappropriate intentions. Victor had just stepped outside when he realized he had left his portable music player in the chief's office, so he turned back. As soon as he opened the door, he caught the chief preparing to make a move on Marcia. Seeing her huddled helplessly in the corner, Victor could no longer stand by. The chief's plans were interrupted, and he immediately shouted at Victor to grab his stuff and leave. But Victor stood there, unmoving. He quietly picked up his music player, carefully wrapping the earphone cable around his fingers. He wasn't looking for trouble, but the chief had picked the wrong person to mess with. The soldier's instincts were provoked, while the chief showed no remorse at all. The chief even tried to advance on Victor. The chief collapsed unconscious right there. Victor then grabbed a glass jar from the desk, casually unplugged the phone line, and calmly walked out of the office with Marcia, as if nothing had happened. Just as they stepped out of the office, an officer rushed into the room. Realizing that things were about to go south, Victor quickly pulled the glass jar from his pocket.